One thing you guys probably don't know about me is that I am a very big stickler for children's television. I have a lot of young cousins, so when I go over to their house, I have to see what kind of kids shows are on these days. And 9 out of 10 times, I am sorely disappointed. I have always had the long-standing belief that kids are a lot more intelligent than we give them credit for. So if you just show them a bunch of colorful objects and stuff, yeah, they'd be entertained, but would they really be that entertained? They're never gonna develop into functional members of society if we keep showing them drivel like this, but at the same time, it can't undermine their intelligence either. Educational or not, it has to have a brain behind it and have some respect for its audience. I have seen both kinds of shows. The kinds of shows where they don't try to educate and they treat the kids like idiots, and where they do try to educate but they treat the kids like idiots. Every single time, it makes my skin crawl. So even if I myself don't watch children's shows, given the fact that I'm an adult, I'm definitely always happy to hear whenever there's something actually intelligent out there. Something that treats kids like equals. Like what Sideshow Bob says.
Treat kids as equals! They're people too! They're smarter than you think! They were smart enough to get me!
But here, I found one of these shows. I found a show that's not only able to teach kids important things, but it also treats them like they're actually functioning humans. I know, right? They're so rare! But, let me tell you all about it. This is Word Girl. How you make a children's show. By the way, this was a Patreon raffle review chosen by Leaf Razor. If you want to decide an upcoming review, go to my Patreon and donate at least $5 and you'll be entered in the Patreon raffle. At the end of the month, the winner of the raffle will get to choose the next review. With some exceptions. Link in the description. Now, enough plugs. Let's get going. Starting off in 2006 as a bunch of shorts called The Amazing Colossal Adventures of Word Girl, Dorothea Glim set out to make children's shows. But not just any children's shows. Hers had a mission behind it, not only to make kids shows that were educational, but ones that were also entertaining. As she says, part of my mission is to make kids television smart and funny. I feel as though we've lost some ground there in an effort to make it more accessible. Word Girl focuses on great stories, character, and animation. If all those elements are working, then you can hook a child who may come looking for laughs, but leave a little smarter. Yes, this is the kind of person we need teaching our kids. The last thing we need is another Barney or Booba, where it just treats kids like complete blithering idiots. It doesn't give them anything, it just talks down to them. And heck, they might even leave those things dumber. But then there's those insipid, mindless educational shows. And I use educational very loosely. Shows like Peppa Pig that sometimes try to teach lessons, but really, they're just there to make an empire. With stuff like that, kids come second, if that. Word Girl is not like that. I've watched several episodes of this, and while it's definitely not something I would watch myself given the fact that I'm 21 at the time of recording, this is definitely something I would show my kids if I had any, or my kid cousins. Too bad it ended recently though. So what's it about? Well, let me tell you. It starts off like Superman. There's a planet called Lexicon, and some people on Lexicon shoot off a little girl who lands on Earth. She is joined by a monkey named Captain Huggy Face. And it's basically a secret identity superhero story. She's got friends, she's got her monkey sidekick, she's got the villain of the week, all that sort of stuff. Our main character, Becky Botsford, also known as Word Girl, constantly goes around saving her town while also teaching proper word usage. That's not something you see a lot in kids shows now, is it? Basically, the villains will often misuse a bunch of words and she'll correct them, and there's those word of the day segments at the end that tell you how to use more words. The show doesn't talk down to kids when it teaches. It stays on the lesson just long enough so that they get it, but it doesn't repeat it over and over and over until it's oozing out of their ears. Trust me, that's a frequent pattern in these things. It just says what it needs to say, says it enough to make sure they get it, and then they move on. And what do you know? Stuff like this is effective. Kids can understand when you're treating them with respect. They can also tell when you're treating them like morons. Guess which one they respond better to? There's the characters too. They're not just blithering idiots that are constantly curious about everything around them and have to get explained everything. No, they're actually three-dimensional characters. But by far, the best part of this show, you'll never guess it, it's the writing. I'm not talking about the lessons, no, I'm talking about the jokes. This is some Dave the Barbarian or Jay Ward level stuff. Believe it or not, some of the writers here used to write for The Onion or Family Guy. Not kidding, and it shows here. You can find a lot of these jokes on regular kids shows. I'm not even talking about little kid shows, I'm talking about regular shows. For example, there's a whole episode where they make something called the high five sandwich. Basically, it's a 3-person high five with one hand, and then another hand stacked on top of it, and then another hand stacked on top of that. That way, everyone can be part of a high five. Well, this giant nerd who just so happens to look like a sandwich happened to make the perfect sandwich, and it was going to be in the newspaper. But it gets overshadowed by the high five sandwich, so he decides to take vengeance out and destroy it. Isn't that just wonderfully ridiculous? And throughout the whole thing, the narrator's trying to tell him that he's being an idiot, and there's a whole bunch of witty banter back and forth, and I was floored. Even in some of the best kids shows, you don't see them put this much effort into the jokes. But this is very much appreciated. If I was a parent watching this with a kid, I'd be laughing right along with them. In fact, I'm not afraid to admit it, I was alone, and I laughed out loud a couple times. It was very nice to see.
Formal means official, following the usual rules. Like how it's formal for me to define the words in every episode.
Yes, and it's formal for you to follow the script and not look to me to give you shortcuts.
Okay.
All right. Meanwhile, at the store you buy gold... Wait, we're supposed to switch scenes before I say... Oh, man.
Sorry about that.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
And of course, according to that earlier quote, the creator of the show wanted some top-notch animation. And while of course it's not Disney movie quality, after all you can't really get away with that on a regular weekly show, this is actually pretty well done. It's got its own style, the movement is pretty good, and the colors are nice, what more can you want? It's colorful enough to get a kid's attention, but not too much so that it blinds any adult that sees the show in passing. Trust me, I've seen those shows, looking at you, Peppa Pig and Hello Dougie. The character designs are also nice too and well represent their personalities, especially those villains, not even just the sandwich guy. Because it was so well loved and clearly cared a lot about its work, Word Girl lasted for quite a while. The show itself started in 2007, of course we're not counting those shorts that were made in 2006, and it concluded in 2015 with a total of 8 seasons. That's not bad at all, especially given the fact that a lot of these kids shows don't last that long. Mostly because they're seen as replaceable. Kids probably won't notice, they're too stupid to care, right? They're cheap, they're easy to throw together, just make it bright and colorful. But this one stuck around. And judging by what I've said, I'm sure you can see why. It's competent. It teaches kids effectively. It's actually funny. And given the fact that I'm not in its target audience, it had no right to be as entertaining as it was. But sure enough it was. Once again, if my kid wanted to watch this, I would gladly sit down and watch it with them. Again, this is not something I'd watch in my free time, of course not, I've got other shows I prioritize. But I can gladly say that my time watching this show was not wasted. And if you've got small children, or heck, if you're a small child yourself, give it a watch. Even though it's not currently running, there's a bunch of episodes accessible on YouTube, so try it out. It put in this much effort, it's definitely worth a watch, I'd say. This goes right up there with VeggieTales or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood as one of the most intelligent kids shows that I have ever seen in all my years on this earth. So that was Word Girl. What'd you guys think of this show if you've seen it? How does it look to you? What'd you think of this video? Whatever your thoughts are, comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you to Leaf Razor for donating to the Patreon review raffle. Once again, if you'd like to see your review come to life, consider donating. Alright folks, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.